Hey, so today I want to talk about the Z Development and Test Learners Edition and what this whole program really was. So, the Z Development and Test Learners Edition was a program from IBM that would allow newer users to learn more about the mainframe and get some hands-on experience. It was an emulator that would allow you to emulate a full mainframe system on your own personal computer. So it's a pretty cool program, I think, and I'm kind of disappointed that it's not really available now, although there is talk that it's going to come back, but we'll talk more about that later. Now, I'm not sure exactly how much is actually known about the Z Development Test Learners Edition throughout the industry as a whole. I know there's a session actually planned for it at Share Columbus 2022, but that session was canceled. And I mean, if anyone from Share or anyone in the industry wants me to present, calls upon me to present, I'll be happy to. But I really think this belongs somewhere outside of Share as well, because I think a lot of the community that can kind of learn from this doesn't have access to Share yet. They're not in the industry yet. So I think it's really important that these kind of materials, at least for getting into the industry, are just available for everyone. That's why I'm making this video. But yeah, other than that, let's kind of get into the story of how I got my copy of the Z Development Test Learners Edition and the process that had to unfold for this whole thing to happen. The Z Development and Test allows you to basically run mainframe software on your own personal computer, your own x86 machine. And it's basically just an emulator, and it lets you run all of the ZOS software. You can do ZBM, Parallel Sysplex if you have a higher license. And how this works is a lot of ISVs don't really want to spend the money to buy a mainframe because it's not a good investment for them because they don't have all the transactions a big credit card company or bank would have. So they don't need all that processing power. So they just really need to test their own applications. So they'll purchase this product and they'll have their own test environment. It's a full mainframe environment. It does everything functionally a mainframe would do. It just you don't have the performance or stability of an actual system. You can't run actual performance workloads, but you can test your software and make sure it works. So that's what this whole thing would allow you to do. And you can get the personal edition for about $5,300 a year for 1 year license. And I mean, if you're really big in the industry, that might not be a horrible career investment. But if you're someone new starting out, maybe you're in college and you're just kind of hearing about the industry, you kind of want to get into it. Um, I guess somewhere along the line they kind of figured that that's not really feasible. So they brought the Learner's Edition, which would basically you would pay 120 a year, $120 a year, and you would get access to your own system that would you could do whatever you want with it except for commercial use. You can't make your own programs and stuff like that that are for commercial use. But you can learn all about the system. You can learn all about ISPF, SDSF, TSO, RACF, even code some assembler on it. You can do anything you really want and just learn about the platform, which I think is a really cool way to bring new people in because I mean the industry sort of needs that in my eyes anyway. So how this worked was you had to apply. So you would have to do these three courses to verify that basically you knew kind of what you were getting into. Because I think they didn't want people to pay all this money and then get it and just be totally stumped because they didn't really know what they were buying. So they wanted you to make sure you sort of knew how mainframes worked and kind of knew at least a little bit what you were doing. Or if you had experience, you could show it to them and then they would let you in too. So this whole thing started about fall of 2021. So I reached out to IBM and they sent me this application. Now, this whole application process and everything, and ordering the product and actually getting it, it was rather slow for lack of a better term, but I did actually get it, although it was kind of a joke between my other coworkers. So yeah, when you're ever gonna get your mainframe, you don't have your mainframe yet, you know, you're never gonna get it. And I just imagine it's because they had a lot of orders and they kind of probably got more of these applications than they expected to, because it is sort of a niche product, but there is a big community of sort of students that really want to get into this sort of thing, but it's hard from an outside perspective because I mean a lot of the world doesn't even know mainframes exist. So I submitted this application in November of 2021. And then shortly after, I got a phone call saying basically I was approved and everything was good. And I should get more instructions following up soon. So great. Although I tried to follow up with them, didn't really hear anything for about another month. And then I got an email from representative from IBM and they said, yeah, just give us your address. We'll set up the order. Great. All right. So I sent it all over. And then I didn't hear anything until February. So February came around, they set up an account for me, and I was actually able to purchase the product. So I went through, paid my $120, and I think it was either then or shortly after that I was able to download the product. So I was very excited to at least have something for the whole process going through. So I wasn't able to use it yet because I didn't have the license key for it, because you actually need this physical dongle for any of the Z development and test products. Well, there is actually a way to do it through a software license server, but that's outside the scope of this video. Anyway, so for this product at least, you need the license key, right? You can't use it. So I had all the software just sitting on my computer, and I was really excited, although I couldn't use it yet. So after waiting a little bit longer, I think it was May, they finally said, all right, we're shipping out the keys. I said, great. So finally got it in the mail, and this is what it looks like. And it came on this little box. It says IBM Rational Development and Test Environment for System Z. One high-capacity hardware device, version 9.1 for 64-bit Linux. Although I think they've sort of reused this box for, it was from something else. I don't know. But so it comes with a DVD, and if you open it up, it's got some stuff inside that's, I guess, somewhat useful. Got a CD of some sort, which I'm not really sure what this is for. I haven't opened it, because I mean all the software is really online and all the documentation is really online. It came with the license key, which is the most important part of this whole process, and then it came with some paperwork. Basically says quick start guide, but again, I think this is for another product. But at any rate, I didn't really care. I was happy I got some progress at least with the whole process. So after receiving the license key, I wasn't able to use the product just yet. I was so close, had almost everything I needed, but the license key still needed to be activated. So I emailed the representative from IBM, gave him the little code on the back of the key itself, and to my surprise, it was within a week or so. They said, "Oh yeah, here you go. Here's your file. Import this, and you'll be all set." And finally, added everything, and it was about half of a year, but I did in fact get the Z Development Test Learner's Edition. But yeah, without further ado, let's actually kind of get in and start looking at the product and set it up and fire up a Z instance. Alright, so I've set up an Ubuntu virtual machine, which is one of these supported environments that the ZD&T can run in. You can also run it in Red Hat, and in most commercial settings are probably using Red Hat, but I'm using Ubuntu for this demonstration because most personal users will probably be using Ubuntu. So I've gone ahead and extracted all of the archives, and it extracts to about 250 gigs, so make sure you have enough space for that if you're following along. And we're going to go ahead and install the preliminary packages required for the installation, and the IBM manual just gives you a list of commands you can run to install these, so it's pretty simple. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and actually run the install. So we have that extracted here under this directory, and we will see a list we want to install, update, or install, and we don't have it installed yet, so we want to install. And then we need to carefully read the license agreement and confirm again for networking. All right, so now we need to decrypt two of the volumes. Now, you can kind of notice these if you go in. Let's just sort by type here. Nope, didn't mean to do that. So if you go in, you're going to have these ZPT files, and those are actually encrypted volumes, and you need to use your license key to decrypt those. So we're actually going to go ahead and we're going to just set some environment variables that the manual directs us to do. So once we do that, you need to run the decryption command, which all of the programs are in the user directory, which is kind of strange. Usually that's not where programs are installed in Linux, but I didn't make it up. I didn't write this program, so I don't know why they did it this way. So when you run this decryption command, you're going to see this Centennial production key not available message. You can ignore that because it is available. If it wasn't available, you'd see a different message saying it can't be decrypted. And in order to actually do all this, you need to have your key installed and set up. I didn't go through the whole setup process for the key because that's going to be unique to you in your situation. They sent me the files to do it and directed me how to do it, but if you get the personal edition or some other edition, you'll have your own documentation for that, and it might be a different process. All right, so now we've completed decrypting the first volume. There's also another volume that needs to be decrypted as well. I believe most archives should have two. So we're going to go in and decrypt that other one as well. Just any ZPD files you have, you need to decrypt those in order to IPL. All right, so we're almost done. We've decrypted both of our volumes. We only have one step left to do, and that is to create a device map. And there's actually a device map sample already in the directory we've received from IBM downloads. So if you can look at that and just display it, you'll kind of see how so I don't have it in this installation. I don't have it in this installation, so there is no device map in this one. We're going to go ahead and make one though. So it's really easy. There is actually a Perl script set up to do that. So it's in the opt config guide sample is where it installed it to. And the device is, you gotta run up Perl, and the program is called create device map, create dev map. And then you want to give it the path to your disks and give it an output and do dev map. Run it. And it's saying my archives aren't devices. That's fine. It should work anyway. So now we can actually go ahead and IPL. Well, we can IPL, but we're going to have a problem because as soon as we IPL, we're not going to have any way to actually access the system because we don't have any 3270 emulator installed. Now, there actually is one we can get, and this is the one that's recommended by IBM, and it lists this in the manual. It is called X3270. All right, so now we have the 3270 emulator installed, and we're going to go ahead and start the IPO process. Now, to do the IPO, we're going to do run ZPDT, and then we're going to do -D and give it our device map. But also, we need to give it a load parameter. This is pretty common with IPLs. In fact, it's necessary for all IPLs. And we're going to use cold start CS because this is our first time starting the system. Here we can see it's obtaining our licenses, so our license key is working. We're licensed for 3 CPUs. So ideally, when you set up your system, you should probably use like four cores because you could have 1 core for the emulator and then 3 for the rest. That's what consensus is, but your mileage may vary. There's kind of some debate to that. And here we can actually see our emulators opened up, and here is our master console. We can actually watch it in process doing the IPL. And this one's just hanging around because this one will connect once our system's up. And the cool thing about this script is it actually replies to all the messages for you as well. At least on first boot, without setting everything up on first IPO, you don't have to reply to any messages. So that's pretty cool. So now after a while, we can go in here and we can try to connect this session. Now, probably not ready yet, but at least it'll be ready when the system comes online. And we can see we're connected in, but we're still waiting on that side. So the IPO progress still has some stuff to do. All right, now our system's actually up and running. So we can go ahead and log on to TSO. What we can do, we're going to use one of the predefined logons because that's kind of our only option. And we can do, should be able to do IBM user. And the password should be IBM user. And it says it needs a new password. So give it that. And here it kind of actually gives you a breakdown of what your default accounts are and what their privileges are. So that's kind of handy to keep in mind. So now let's go ahead and here we are in ISPF. Looks a little bit wonky on this emulator. Ideally, you'd probably log on another system with a different emulator. But yeah, see, it's all here and it all works. Go on to 3.4 and take a look at some of our data sets. The first thing I want to do is move this command line up to the top. That's always kind of bugs me when that's the default. Let's take a look at some of these data sets on here. Yeah, this is a basic AD/CD system. Now there are some kind of caveats with this. When you're logged on, like I am now through a 3270, so you can see our port is 3270. And what it's actually doing is you're not connecting onto the system how you normally kind of would on a regular mainframe. Because usually you will see the port be 23 or something like that. I mean, you could change it, but you're not connected to the 3270 server running on the mainframe. You're actually connected to the emulator, and that's connecting you in through SNA into VTAM. So something to keep in mind, because we haven't actually set up any networking on this system yet. So that's something I probably want to go in and do later because you're not going to have access to SSH into your OMVS and stuff like that. And also the other thing is if you want to have a ton of sessions open with different users, say just make a bunch of users, have a bunch of different sessions open, kind of display different things like I like to do. You can't do that by default because you only have so many defined, basically SNA ports to the system. So you can go in and define that in your device map, and it's pretty simple to do. I think you have like a maximum of 30, which is more than enough for this sort of personal use system. I mean, this isn't going to be a multi-user thing. You're not going to be doing that on these just because you're not really going to get the performance, and you're not really going to be using these for commercial work. It's not really made for that. If you're going to do something like that, you'd want to go in and get one of the other licenses or get a timeout reel system. But yeah, so this has been kind of a quick look at the Z Development and Test Learners Edition. I think it's a really cool program, and I really recommend it to anyone who wants to get into learning the mainframe, is what I would say, but it's not available anymore. And with that, I mean, IBM has said they're working on bringing this program back in just a different form. So I'm really interested in just hearing about that and seeing what the future of this is, because I think there's definitely a lot to learn for new people kind of getting involved in the mainframe and all that kind of stuff.